Okay. Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here. I was very nervous the whole day. Is it working? Yeah. But yeah, so my book is called Sitting Next to a Stranger, and we all started as strangers. There's some strangers in the back there, and some of the people here I just met today. But I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I wrote this book. It took me 3 years, maybe even longer, because it was already, somewhere in the back of my mind. But now it's finished, and I am just happy to celebrate it. And thank you for being here.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little Q&A, and then we'll open it up to you guys. So let's sit down and go. Okay. First things first, we know why we're here, but what is your book about?
Yes. So, oh yeah. Oh, yeah. So my book is about being a kind stranger to other people and receiving this kindness as well from the world and from the people on it. I think it's about stepping out of your own head and daring to step into the beautiful world. About stopping to stop being afraid and to try to open yourself up for new experiences and new people that come on your paths. That's what it's about.
Next question. What inspired you to write this?
Yes. So the book is very clearly set in Mexico, and there's even a reference to the time after like pandemic, like everybody's like too much on their own. It's like, okay, I'm ready to open, to step into the world and to I'm ready for a connection again. So you could point it down to whatever happened in that time, but I think it's even about like the reason why I came. Oh, the time before I came to Prague, I had just was in my early 20s, and I was speaking to a lot of strangers in Amsterdam, and I realized like, oh, everybody here knows something that I don't know, and if you are open to trying to learn from someone else, and if that other person also listens to you, or maybe not that person at the time, but a week later somebody else listens to you, you can keep on sharing information and emotions and feelings, and by doing so there's never a limit of learning new things. And that's the real inspiration behind the book.
I love that. Okay. So how did those locations influence your writing? And can you give me an example of that?
Yes, I can. So Nora starts in Amsterdam. And it's winter, it's gray. She's in a place she doesn't want to be. And that already influences her by she's not taking any risk. There's nothing like that excites her. So there's no force that drags her or pulls her into any new direction. Then she goes to Mexico, and Mexico is such an amazing place. It has everything, including everything, like from just a whole palette of different colors and experiences. And so she goes there, and then she's really like scared of strangers. She's an introvert, but she's also really okay with being alone. But if you're alone traveling in Mexico, as a woman, but in general, you cannot just be on your own. You cannot just be having your head in the clouds and keep on daydreaming. You really need other people, because things can happen that you don't want to. You don't want that. So in that way, Mexico, the dangerous side, but also like the warmth of the culture and like the openness and people smiling at you all the time and people reaching out, do you need help and do you need this, that just influences the character development so much. And just her whole world was upside down, like, oh, there is this different kind that I need to explore, but I need to be able to, I need to dare sitting next to strangers. And then I think another part of going to Mexico is that she goes backpacking. And backpacking is again a very like free-spirited experience. That's what it looks like on the surface, but it's actually really lonely, because everybody leaves, you know, and there's this like, oh, we are like same minded people and we get along, we're friends, but that person can leave the next day or the next week, or you are the one to leave. So this again, this like constant connection that's being taken away is influencing Nora and how she, you know, how she's experiencing her life. So this story would have been a different story if it took place in a different country. So I always feel like it's also like a thank you note to Mexico and to the experiences I had there. And yeah.
Thank you. So speaking of, you had the book is very visual for those who have not read it. Who's read it actually? Okay, also me. Okay. So it's very visual. Did you ever consider adding pictures to the book?
No. No, not at all. Yeah, so Nora is a painter. She has an obsession with Van Gogh. It has a special symbolic meaning in her life, which goes back to her parents and something that happened in her childhood. And so she sees the world as her canvas, and that's how she approaches it. But still, people have asked me like, "Oh, do you want to add these pictures, or do you want to add pictures of your own traveling in the book?" And I really don't want that. It's my words are really strong enough. I don't need to rely on pictures. You know, the words do the job for me. And I think that for the reader, it's also nicer if you imagine it yourself. You know, I don't want you all to read it and seeing the same thing. I want you to try to picture it yourself, because that's what fiction is about. So no pictures in this edition. However, I don't know. Let's see what the future holds. Maybe we can include another medium in the far future. But for now, my words are my superpower, and that's where it stays. Yeah.
I love you speaking in code. Who is Nora, actually?
Yeah. Sure. So Nora is a graphic designer locked in a corporate, and she luckily gets out of there very soon. But she's really a daydreamer. She constantly has her head in the clouds, and that's her way of just like kind of being disconnected with the world and what's happening around her. But she's also really sweet, but and also very afraid. She's like always afraid of connection, afraid of what's of you know, new connection, and of emptiness that can follow if the connection fades away or if something happens. And her parents always tell her like, oh, the world is a really dangerous place, it's better if you stay with us. They even give her like a feeling of guilt for trying to explore in her ways, which is really like super innocent. So Nora is afraid, but I feel like there is also this like desire or this fire in her that is, once it's released, which happens a couple of times in the book, then she's like kind of silly and she's like really, really fun, but she needs to have a push in the right direction to release this fire or to really trying to be herself, you know? And I'm very happy that she manages. You will find out how, because, you know, there's always a journey within the journey. So you will read about who Nora becomes. But in general, she's a painting, a bit obsessed, a bit quirky, a daydreamer that, you know, is finally taking responsibilities for following her dreams.
You kind of touched on it already, but there's a huge theme that I noticed, especially in Nora's life, is fear. So how does that like fear limit her in her life, and how do you think it translates to even ours as well?
Um, I think nobody really tells her. You don't say it to yourself like, "Oh, I'm afraid," and that's it. So you always try to lie to yourself or come up with excuses. And I think that's what Nora does all the time. She's always like, oh, I'm not that kind of person. Like, no, this is meant for me. No, I'm already 30. I already committed to this career. Or, no, I'm not the kind of person that falls in love. But it's like, shut up, you are. And and it's like, so her fear is like she doesn't say like I'm afraid. I mean, sometimes she says so, but she's more coming up with all these excuses instead of facing her fear, which is the fear is very human. It's very like, okay, I'm afraid of connection and everything that follows when the connection goes away. And then, of course, fear of being in Mexico. But also, it's a fear that's mostly in your head, you know? So, the first one specifically. So, that's a good thing. You just need to be able to say, shut up to that fear, to that voice inside your head, and just allow yourself to be fearless. Um, so, the role of fear is very prominent, but also one she can overcome as long as you accept that you need to learn from other people who might point out this fear to you, or who might, you know, show you that things are not as afraid or not as scary as you think that they are. um, so yeah, she and fear, they kind of dance with each other, because it's good to have some fear and some cautiousness, but it limits her lives too much, so she needs to win fear over, you know.
Um, if you've read the book, you know that there is a lovely amount of wild characters. So could you tell me more about your favorite characters?
Yes. Um, so it's funny, because when you start writing a book, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no background in creative writing. In writing, yes, but not in like storytelling and all those things. So and there's so much to learn. It's like forever exploring what writing is about. But some of the first lessons that you learn are, don't have so many characters, like limit them, because your readers, they don't want to have a spreadsheet with who is this and who is that. Just make it simple, and also make sure that every character has a specific significant impact on the life of of the main character, the one that we are following throughout the book. So I came back from Mexico and I felt like, oh, I want to write a book about everybody she meets, and I want her to start alone, end alone, and everybody has to go, like, has to be on their own journey. This is not a spoiler. There's surprises in there, but it's kind of if you would picture my story, it would be this, and then Nora going like this throughout these things. So then learning like you need to limit your characters would be like, oh shit, like my story is never gonna make it. Like, this is, I don't know how to write fiction. This is, I should stop writing. Like, I shouldn't even start. Like, just throw everything away and go back to whatever you were doing. But luckily, I didn't do that. And I did come up with a lot of characters, and they all have their significant role in the life, but just in a way that I had never read before in another book. And I love how I explored that. So there are a lot of characters. And then your question, who is my favorite? I would have to say two of them. Like, one of them is at the beginning of the book. She's in this hostel, and then there's this woman running towards her, and she's super chaotic. And she's like, "Oh, I know you from somewhere, and you and I, we're meant to be friends." And Nora's like, "What? Who are you? Leave me alone. I'm afraid. Like, I'm like anxious, and I don't know you. Like, stop talking to me." And but secretly, she kind of really adores this woman. Like, she admires her, and she loves this chaotic vibe around her, and it's something that she wants to have in her own life. But she's, again, too afraid to admit, like, oh, I want to be chaotic too. I want to be like, I just want to live. I don't want to be this structured version of myself. So I think this woman, Nora, doesn't know it yet. She just thinks like, this is a weird woman in the hostel, but it's a very important woman to her whole development. And the woman also exists in real life, so that is funny. And another favorite character would be Ruby. This is like this typical backpacking girl, like hippie, like, I'm living in the moment, and everything is fine and it's all good. But I think she and Nora actually have the same issues, which maybe it's commitment issues, or just this fear of connection, but also desire for connection. And Nora and Ruby, they approach the same issue in different ways. Like, Nora is doing it by staying in the same place, and Ruby is doing it by moving too fast through life, and therefore they both like Ruby specifically, she pretends like, oh, I'm like, my life is perfect the way it is because I'm so free. But there's like, no, you're also really running away from something. And the something is obviously in the book, but this is something that Nora doesn't deal with, but still there is like, again, like this kind of a yin-yang approach of the same issue. And it was really nice to write that because I could put all the introverted character traits to Nora and all the other like wild character things to Ruby, and there within that I could just still find how they still have things in common. And that was a beautiful process. And I love Ruby. She's crazy.
So actually, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but she has this really creative way of tackling this whole like too many characters kind of situation. And it's by using like painting titles for them. So how did you come up with that process of like naming the character? Or just explain that process.
Yeah, so if you have the book in your hands now, you can see that I kind of have like the chapters. I labeled them. I named the chapters, and this is like the labels that Nora gives to people she meets. And this again comes back to like this, okay, there's too many characters. I should never be a writer. What am I doing? So, as a quick fix, when I was writing this, I just gave these people, without giving them background story, without giving them a name, I just said chaotic woman, man with a dog, man smoking cigar, like random, random painting titles, how you would read them in a museum. And that was just a quick fix, not knowing how the story would evolve. But I just kept on writing because what I've learned from writing this book, and what is a great lesson for any other writing project I will ever work on, is you just need to keep on writing and the issues will solve itself. And they do so very creatively. So and it became a part of how Nora sees the world, right? She would rather label a person and also experiences as, oh, this thing that happened, this person, instead of just removing the label and living it instead of thinking what it could be for her or her art. It's like just live it, don't label it. But yeah, so like something that I felt like, oh, this is like an error or something that should stop me from writing became a very important part of the main character. So yeah, always keep on writing.
I think that's a great lesson for all of us, even if we're not creatives. Just keep trucking. So my next question is, and if you have not seen the museum that Eileen has set up over here, how was the writing process for you? And how long did it take you to write it?
Yeah, so I have exposed some of my manuscripts and some of like my journal that I had with me in Mexico. Most of it is in Dutch, so you won't know what it says. But a lot of stuff is also in English because it was the start of my book. Um, just so please have a look after after this talk. But the writing process is a roller coaster. It's the best thing ever because you think, oh, I'll just write a sentence and then another one, and then I remove something, and then it should be a story. But you need to write like 1,000 sentences just to get one good one, and that's daunting and scary. And like, oh, there's so much stuff that I need to go through to get to what I really mean. But it's always also an adventure and like a journey as a writer. And there's nothing like being in your room, usually you're at 2 a.m. Maybe there's a glass of wine next to you, maybe not. Probably yes. And you've been thinking about this scene, like you wrote it like 2 months ago, and then you just let it be and you go continue your life. And then you come back to it and you're like, okay, let's fix it. It doesn't work. The next time you come back, the next day, and at one moment you're getting it right, and that moment is very magical. And it's not the biggest part of writing, but it is the most important part of writing. And that's the best part of the process. Yeah. So it's scary and there's no roadmap, but these magical moments are the best.
How long does it take you?
How long did it take me to write this novel? 3 years, but I took a lot of breaks, like sometimes months. And that's good because the story still plays on the back of your mind like a movie. And then when you're in the supermarket or when you're doing something super like not romantic, nothing with like the more romanticized writing life, something super boring, something speaks to you and you're like, oh, I'm gonna put that in relation, like I'm gonna add that to that scene that has nothing to do with the Prague supermarkets, but still I feel like, oh, but it has to be in my book. So 3 years, lots of breaks, but the breaks also were adding something to the story.
That adds to my next question. What do you consider the starting point for this process?
Mm, the starting point would maybe when I came back from Mexico and went to my desk and was like, okay, let's go. Um, or when I was there, not on my laptop, but when I was just taking notes in my journal, and the journal is over there, and when I was collecting information. That would be the starting point, I think. Or maybe the year before I moved to Prague and realized there's actually there I have a journal from it's not here, but the month before I moved to Prague, and I came here for a corporate career, and oh, um, but even when I knew like okay, it's gonna be like a career move, I have a journal and it says just go there, drink good coffee, and write your books. And I didn't know that I wrote this down. I just found it like last year. I was like, oh, I already knew. I always knew.
Okay, so I have one last question before we open it up to you guys. Um, I there's a lot of quotes that are in this that are very quotable. You'll soon find out. What was your favorite quote? I will lead with mine. So this is from the character of Ruby, as she discussed before. I love this strange world we all live in, even with the emptiness it holds. Very poignant. So, can you tell me about your favorite quote, and then we'll open it up for everyone else.
Okay. I love writing down good quotes. Like I even quoted myself the other day. I was like, oh. um, she's always there for him, but never next to him. And loving you is not the same as joining you, not in my dictionary. Um, a long one. Um, put 4 people in front of a painting in a museum, and you will get 4 different interpretations. Let 2 people listen to the same song, and they will find 2 different meanings. Put 10 people in a hostel room listening to the same story, and you will get 10 different reactions, or maybe 11 if somebody dares to change their mind based on new information they heard. Um, I think that's I can go on, but I think that's all.
All right. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to open it up to you guys, to the audience. Does anyone have a question? Yes, in the back. If you could project, and then she'll just answer here.
I haven't read the book yet, but I'm very curious about that. The question in my head, like, before starting any creating process, if you already know how it will finish or it comes by the process, when you started to write the book, did you think about like that will be the end, or it came after this process?
Yeah, so a good question. If I already knew how the story would end before I started writing it, no. I think the story. I want to see. The story and Nora really surprised me as well. So I had a feeling like I want to start it with some specific feeling, which is feeling gray and feeling bored. And I want to end it with not having a plan. That was how I started. I didn't know anything about that she actually is afraid. I found out like, oh, maybe I'm afraid as well. Or I didn't know that the meaning of art is so important for Nora's life and it's also for my life. I didn't know that the story is about strangers, but it's actually about finding a connection and finding friendship and love and being vulnerable. I didn't know all those things. So the book really taught me a lot as well. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, next. Anyone? Yes.
So with your writing process, what do you think the biggest challenge was? What's something that kept you, you said you took months off at a time. What was that thing that kind of that roadblock
Yeah.
that you had?
So, what was the biggest challenge of writing? Maybe so. The blocks that I took up were sometimes because I actually had met a deadline, and I felt, okay, I need to step away, or I need to ask for feedback. So I'm taking a break, just to come back with fresh eyes. I've never really felt like, oh, I need a break because writing is not serving me. But what I think just being afraid. The blocks are how messy it is, how much bad writing you need to do before good writing comes. And another thing is that was kind of funny. I would be laying in most of this book is written in Rikrofi, like the bark in Vinorari, and I would be laying there, and a sentence came to me. So I would not have my phone or my journal with me, and I would run home, which is not so far from the park, but still, I would run home thinking like, oh, I just fixed everything. I've created the best sentence ever. I go to my laptop, I write it down, and it looks like shit. So it's like, oh fuck, I need to edit this a million times too, but I still feel that this sentence exists. I need to shape it. So that could like a lot of balancing between being super excited and knowing how much work it is. Yeah. But I always knew that my story would figure itself out. I always trusted my character, like she's gonna be okay. Yeah. So
As an author, you had a privilege to change the stories, to change the characters, their visage. But what I'm curious about is how did the book or the story change you?
so I could change the characters, yes. I felt like a god sometimes. But how did it change me, right? um, I think it showed me that I think I already knew the lesson about meeting strangers and learning from each other before I started writing because that was my motivation. But then the things that the book taught me is that I also need to be vulnerable to allow myself to live and to let someone in and you know say yes to a connection. And I did now after the book, so that's really nice. And I think if I would have to write the book right now, I wouldn't be able to write it because I'll be like, yeah, I already know, I don't care. Huh. Huh. Mhm.
So from character Ruby, she had like she's very unique and had a big influence. Who or what gave you the inspiration for this?
Mhm. So from the one of my favorite characters, Ruby, who gave me the inspiration to write her. There's this song from the Rolling Stones. It's called Ruby Tuesday. And my parents and I, we always listen to the Stones. So I really like the lyrics. It's about this free woman, free spirited. She comes and goes. You never know where she's going. I had that lyrics written, and it's not here, but I had it written on a paper, and that lyrics was the inspiration for the character. And then also cool women that I met when I was traveling, but also in Prague and friends from home. So just cool women. And fun thing is, I have been reaching out to some people that I met in Mexico and Colombia and saying like, hey, remember me from 3 years ago? We had this like, we traveled for some days. I wrote a book and it's based on one of the characters based on you. And two of them bought it. So, and I really, I really want to hear their thoughts. Like maybe they feel like, why, this is not me at all. I'm not from there. Like, who are you? Who are you? Or maybe they feel like, oh, yes, I share insecurities with this character and you wrote it down. I don't know. We're gonna see. So yeah.
I'd like to share one of my favorite quotes from the book. It was
Nora said, "I must know what Bad Bunny's singing about." Does she ever discover what he's singing about?
Oh yeah. um, yes. So Bad Bunny is also like very like an amazing superstar. And when I was traveling, he was everywhere, like in every group tour you did, in every van that you went on a road trip with, in every hostel room. Bad Bunny, his music. He was not actually there, but he was there. So a thing in the book is Nora is also learning Spanish. So she goes to her Spanish classes. And then she realized, like, oh, that too is something I should learn in the real world and not behind a notebook or a textbook. And yeah, she finds out what he's singing. He's saying something about passion, I guess. It's probably in every song. No, yeah, I think learning a culture by learning the language really helps. So, and it was also a necessity for her to really connect with people that are not just her own backpacking bubble. You need to speak Spanish in Mexico, yeah. You need to understand Bad Bunny. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Why did you decide to use the surname Daniel or last
Yes. Amazing. So my Nora, her surname is Van Wilp, and we have two of them, Andrew van Wilpen and Courtney van Wilpen. The surname, so because of the Van Gogh obsession, he also has the fun in it. So I wanted, and it's a very Dutch thing. So I think that's cool for international readers to see, like, oh, she has this typical Dutch surname. And Andrew, here, love you. You and I, we were discovering like writing a book and being creative together. So I wanted to dedicate it to you. Yeah. Mhm.
Why I asked that question?
Yeah. Did you tell her to ask it? Oh. So yeah, Nora van Wilpen, van Wilp. Mhm. Yeah. So if you have the book with you, you can go to page 128, and then halfway on the page is where I will start. So we are now in Oaxaca. It's this town in Mexico, and Nora meets a man in the hostel, Jose, and and Jose travels with a dog, and he is from Peru, but he lives in Canada, and he travels by boat to Mexico, and then by from Mexico to Peru by bike, without planes and without buses even. So they are on this square together and they have conversation. I wanted to point out that I could do it alone, that I did not need others. Then I looked at my feet, the sky, and the square we sat on, and I realized that I would not be here if not for other people. Who is your favorite stranger? Jose asked. My mind flew back to Amsterdam. The first person who popped into my mind was the security guard in the Van Gogh Museum. If I saw him every week, but knew nothing about him except his museum pass, was he a stranger? How much was there to know about someone? What were the components? Van Gogh's art connected us. It gave me a reason to talk to him. He didn't know the significance of the painting. No one did. How do you define a stranger? I asked. Jose hesitated before he spoke. Someone you know little about. That meant 90% of the people I encountered in my life. I knew the painting titles I gave them, but I made sure I departed before I could find out anything that put us closer and led to a goodbye. So, who's yours? He asked again. Oh, I'm sorry. I have met few strangers. I closed my eyes. It did not go to the dark room in my mind, but I flew over the Atlantic like my body had on a Tuesday in February. It stopped at Ruby. Someone who told me not to be afraid. What are you afraid of? Today I'm afraid of strangers. But we were strangers an hour ago. What a frightening thought. I held my notebook closer to my chest. How can this be scary? Jose asked. I used to think strangers were scary because a hello could be dangerous. Now, I feared strangers. Getting to know someone inevitably led to a goodbye. I was better safe for a goodbye than sorry to miss out. So you want to be safe and sorry? For every person we meet, we realize they will leave. I explained as I let my spark for imagining work in reverse. Even the grey had been a safe place. Complaining about work pressures and spilling tea at the coffee machine were comfortable excuses to postpone my dreams of finding a connection. What's your alternative? Jose asked. A life of staying after seeing all the colors. It's all I dare to do. But you're here now. Kila the dog signed. I did too. That's it. So nice. Oh.